Hi, I'm Maria Sevilla with Sevilla Bodyworks. So today's video I'm going to talk about the whole entire lower leg. So the lower leg encompasses foot, knee, and hip health. And what often happens is when our body's out of alignment, we kind of have a tendency to produce muscle imbalances, which creates more wear and tear. So alignment's really important to the health of our lower leg. I have a healthy foot video, and I have a hamstring stretch video and a hip video, which all will help you get to this level where we're going to work the whole entire lower leg. When we stand, alignment's really important. So one of the things about the feet, and I've talked about this in my healthy foot video, is the distribution of weight through the feet. So we have our footprint, which encompasses the big toe, big toe, metatarsal, all the way to the fifth metatarsal, the balls of the feet here. And then kind of like creating a footprint that comes around to the ankle. And then you have your arch, which remains lifted. So those muscles and balancing those muscles is really important to the overall alignment of the whole lower leg up to the hip. So just some quick examples of what can happen here is if you have a tendency to pronate, which is to kind of roll the ankle in, it changes the alignment of the knee, and the knee has a tendency to turn in, and then affects how the hip feels, and then again to the lower back. So a lot of standing like this, running, any kind of other exercises that you do in this position is eventually going to put some wear and tear on the knee and the hip and low back. So then the other position that can happen is maybe too much standing on the outside of the feet, so rolling out. So you see now my knee comes out. This produces a lot of tension in the outer thigh. So people here might feel tight IT bands, their lateral muscles are a little tight, and again, a little bit more maybe pain in the outside of the hip and up into the back. So we really do want to address the whole lower leg. So we're going to get started with this band. So I have a band that is very long, you see here. So I buy them in rolls, and then I just cut them long so I can do some of these stretches and exercises. I'm going to lie down on my back. This is a medium band. It's not too heavy or too light. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my right leg up. So I'm going to take the foot into the band. I'm going to cross the band at the balls of the feet, and I want to have a little bit of tension because I want a little bit of help holding it up. And then I'm just going to straighten my other leg out. So if you watched my hamstring stretch video, then you'll notice that looks very familiar. I want to make sure my pelvis is in neutral position, and that my sits bone is drawing down, and I'm feeling that length through the low back so that my hamstring is getting some length here. First thing I'm going to do is hold the band fairly tight so that I'm pulling into my chest. I'm going to relax my shoulders down. And I'm going to point and flex. So I'm going to point my foot, and then I'm going to flex. And when I'm doing this, I'm focusing on that second toe staying in line with the middle of my tibia here. So that tibial tuberosity right here, I'm trying to stay in line. So I'm not rolling in my ankle at all. I'm just trying to stay in line with that as I'm pointing and flexing. And automatically I'm feeling the work through the band. So I'm feeling my calf work quite a bit. I'm feeling the work through the foot. And then I'm going to curl the toes a little bit, so adding more work through the flexors of the feet and those extensors. So curling the toes a little bit and then pulling back. So if you watched my healthy foot video, this is sort of like the beginning of the foot wave. And then once I'm done with that, I'm going to change that direction. I'm going to roll inward. So this is inversion. And then I'm going to roll outward, which is eversion. And I naturally pronate more, so the eversion is pretty easy for me. The inversion, I feel a little bit more work. Now, as I do this, I'm going to add the curling of the toes in on the inversion, and then I'm going to push and pull the toes out on the eversion. So that's rolling in and just rolling out. Automatically, I can feel a lot of work in my lower leg. After doing enough of these, I'm just going to pause and stop, and I'll realign myself. Then I'm going to add the work through the hip. So I'm going to point my toe, moving through my ankle, and then I'm thinking about drawing the back of my heel all the way to the back of my knee, and then all the way from the back of the knee to the glute fold right here. And I'm going to press down, and then I'm going to flex, and then it's the reverse. I'm lengthening through the back of the leg, pulling through the front of the leg, I'm going to change that direction, pointing, feeling the back of the heel all the way to the glute fold. So basically, I'm working the back line on the way down and working the front line on the way up. I'm going to do one more of these, pointing, coming down, maybe a little curl of the toes if that's what's needed to create more flexion and connection to the back of the glute, more pulling the toes forward. If you have a tendency to work your toes, then just focus on the ankles. And what I mean by that is most people that don't have that motion through their ankle joint tend to pull their toes up and down a lot. So try to be mindful of that, and then we're going to come back up. So now once I'm here, I'm going to do the same thing side to side. I'm going to invert, so that's rolling in, and then I'm going to pull my leg over to the side. This is a lovely stretch. You really feel all of this all the way down through the side. I'm going to try to keep my pelvis down. I don't want to lift up. This is not lumbo-pelvic movement. This is keeping your pelvis down and just working through the hip joint. Then I'm going to change that direction. I'm going to push through the toe, pull back with the pinky toe, open up, everting and coming out here, and then going back and forth. So just like when I was going up and down, the idea is that I'm pulling the inside into my inside of my hip in my groin area, stretching the outside of my hip. Then I'm going to slowly reverse that. I'm going to open up the inside of my hip and then pull from the outside of my hip. So that when I come out to this position, I'm really feeling my abductors working, and then coming back. And my core, believe it or not, just to keep the pelvis stable is quite a bit of work here. And then back and forth. And I'm trying to relax my shoulders and work with the band rather than kind of pulling against it. And then once we're ready, we can just take that into the full circle. And then I'm going to go down and all the way. So as I come down, I'm going to change that direction of my foot and then come all the way around. And then opening. Try to feel that connection from the foot all the way to the hip. Working with that band. And then coming up. So I'm going to do one more this direction. It really feels delicious. So this is what we're doing in the hip. We're doing that circumduction, but we're trying to maintain that chain of command from the foot all the way to the hip. And then I'm going to come back up, and then I'm going to reverse that. So I'm going to go this direction. And then around. And I don't know if you've noticed, but as I'm doing this, I'm actually getting more mobility through my hip. And the circle is getting a little bit larger. And then last one, I think that was 3. And then come all the way up. Now I'm just going to do a lovely little hamstring stretch here. And then I'm going to come down. Whew, that was amazing. Okay, so we're going to do the other side. I'm going to roll through it really quickly. And I'm right-handed, so my right hip is more flexible. Means my left is a little bit more stiff. Crossing the band, working the foot first. So pointing and flexing. Things to note here are really being able to feel that whole engagement of the back of the leg all the way down, and then through the front of the way all the way down. So my quad is working here, and then my glute fold and my hamstring are working here. Even though my knee isn't bent, I can still activate and feel that just because my foot is working in this position. And then we'll roll in and roll out. And I just have enough resistance that I'm really feeling the work through the lower leg. I'm going to add my toes curling a little bit just to kind of get more work through my extensors and flexors of my feet. And then after I've done enough of those, then I'm going to point and pull down. So really focusing on that glute line all the way back. And then trying to maintain that neutral pelvis as you do this. Down and up. Believe it or not, this is a little bit harder than it looks, just keeping your pelvis stable. So I am working that right hip as well to maintain that stability. So the muscles are my extensors through my hip are engaged to maintain that stability there. Okay, so I'm going to do one more of these. I'm not pulling a little bit with my hands, but I'm really trying to make all the work happen in my leg and my hip. So then I'm going to roll and I'm going to go this way. And my IT band on my left side is a little bit tighter. So this is very enjoyable to get that stretch. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction, opening out a long leg. Hopefully I'm not going to hit that mirror there. And then opposite direction. I think one of the most important things to know about the hip is it does need this movement from side to side and circumduction. Most people tend to work in the sagittal plane a lot, which is forward motion, running, walking, things like that. And getting this side to side action is something that is really helpful for the hip. Like I say, motion is lotion. That's the truth. And then I'm going to go ahead and go around. And then the opposite direction. I'm holding the band in such a way that I feel like I'm controlling the resistance, the appropriate amount of what I need. Not too much, not too little. And then I'm going to do one more this way. And then I'm going to reverse it. And then coming up and then going the other way. And then around. Do you find that you're wobbling a lot and you have a hard time staying stable and keeping that pelvis stable? Think about the breath so that you're exhaling and you're drawing your belly into your spine. And you're thinking about narrowing the top of your pelvis, so you're cinching your waist in here. But you still have to try to keep your hips open. That's sometimes going to be challenging to not pull into the hips and keep the belly tight. So keep your breath relaxed throughout this. And then coming back up. And then I'm going to give myself another little stretch here. And see, I got a little bit further. And then coming up. Okay, woof. All right, so if you do those in addition to the healthy foot, the hamstring, and the hip video, maybe adding those in, I think it'd be really helpful for just the whole health of the lower leg and to get you a little bit more used to working your alignment from your feet all the way to your hip. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks.